Your city is killing your bank account. Every year, it's the same tragedy. Heavy rain, submerged streets, a graveyard for cars. Your basement becomes an expensive swamp. Your electronics are ruined. Your furniture is soaked. This is the 21st century. How is this still happening? We spent billions on drains, tunnels, and concrete. They told us we were safe. They lied. The concrete is the enemy. Every road and sidewalk acts like a solid plastic shield. It suffocates the earth. It turns gentle rain into a violent, high-speed wave. This isn't a natural disaster, it's a design failure. We built rigid boxes. Now, those boxes are filling with water. But one city doesn't fear the storm. It actually prays for the flood. No traditional drains, no frantic pumping. While you drown, this city stays bone dry. It doesn't fight the water, it drinks it. Welcome to the sponge city. This is an urban jungle that behaves like a living organ. It is steel and glass that absorbs a literal ocean. Engineers called it impossible. They were wrong. We've uncovered a 4-billion-year-old biological secret. It makes modern dams look like primitive toys. Our cities aren't just broken, they are obsolete. To understand the future, we have to look at the skin of this new world. Think about a road, not a cracked asphalt strip, but a high-tech surface. Imagine dumping a massive bucket of water in the center. In any normal city, that water pools and sits there, waiting to ruin your day. But here, the water vanishes. It doesn't splash or run into a gutter. It is swallowed by the ground in seconds. It isn't a magic trick. It is the pavement behaving like it's thirsty. This is the permeable road, the skin of the future. Our old streets are waterproof sheets that trap water and cause chaos. This material is different. It is filled with millions of microscopic pores, tiny holes invisible to the naked eye. These pores allow thousands of gallons to flow through the surface and back into the earth every single minute. No puddles, no flooded intersections, just a dry surface during a downpour. It feels like magic, but it is pure, calculated logic borrowed directly from nature. Here is the reality. This isn't a distant sci-fi concept, it is happening right now. In the streets of Wuhan and the corridors of Singapore, you aren't walking on dead ground. You are walking on a living system. We are witnessing the death of the concrete fortress. We are seeing the birth of the living organism. We are moving past the arrogant idea of fighting nature. We are finally becoming nature. Our old thinking was simple. Build a wall, build a pipe, push water away. But water is patient. Water is relentless. Eventually, the water wins. The sponge city flips the script. Why fight an infinite resource? Instead of seeing rain as an enemy, these cities see it as a gift to be harvested. The ultimate technology wasn't invented in a factory, it was perfected by nature over 4 billion years. Imagine a city that integrates with the land. Every rooftop, sidewalk, and park becomes part of one connected living network. This shift changes everything. Our cities stop being heat-trapping, flood-prone blocks of stone. They start behaving like adaptive, self-healing ecosystems. But if the road is the skin, what is the heart? How does the city organize all this water without creating a swamp? Most people think this is just about planting trees. That is a tiny piece of the puzzle. There is a deeper mystery at work beneath your feet. Beneath these thirsty roads lies a hidden system that looks less like plumbing and more like a human nervous system. What happens next will surprise you. We are going beneath the surface to reveal the secret that keeps these cities from drowning. Most people assume that sponge means just letting water soak into the dirt. They are wrong. Beneath the permeable skin lies a multi-layered underground storage system. Think of it as a massive underground cathedral for rainwater. Beneath the road surface sits a hidden grid of high-strength hollow cubes, invisible from above, but doing the most important job in the city. While the streets above stay dry, these underground chambers hold millions of gallons in temporary storage. This prevents the surrounding soil from turning into liquid mud and collapsing your home's foundation. But the water doesn't just sit there. It moves using the same physics that pulls water up a 300-foot tree against gravity. The city uses specially designed fabric layers that literally pull water from saturated zones and move it toward thirsty parks and green spaces. It is a zero-energy pump system, no electricity, no machines. Just the natural physics of water movement doing the work for free. We have replaced dumb pipes that only know how to overflow with smart underground voids that know how to store, move, and distribute water intelligently. This is the difference between a city that drowns and a city that dominates. Think of a city as a giant, thirsty organism. For a century, we treated buildings like static, dead objects. We built impenetrable, waterproof boxes. That was our biggest mistake. In a true sponge city, a building doesn't just stand there, it participates in a massive biological process. It doesn't just block water with a barrier, it breathes water in, it drinks it down. Here is the logic. How can a 50-story skyscraper of steel and glass act like a giant tree root? It sounds like an engineering nightmare, but in reality, it is the ultimate logic of efficiency. In this new world, a building isn't just an office. It is a functional part of the Earth's water cycle. These towers use internal vascular systems that mirror the plumbing of a living tree. Imagine rain hitting a futuristic tower. In a normal city, that water is a nuisance. It gets funneled into a sewer and forgotten forever. But in a living city, the rooftop is a dense, mossy lung. It captures every droplet. It filters water through engineered layers. The water doesn't just fall, it flows through the building's internal veins. It gets stored in vertical chambers that cool the entire structure from within. During the heat of the day, the building perspires. It releases moisture to cool the streets below. When the storm gets too heavy, the building's underground root system takes over. These are massive, interconnected underground vaults that are not just stagnant tanks. They are adaptive units that communicate with each other. They move water exactly where it is needed most. This is a collective urban metabolism, a city with a pulse. These buildings aren't fighting the flood. They are sustained by it. We are shifting from rigid, dumb structures to a modular, smart anatomy. But how does a city coordinate all of this? How does it know when to drink or breathe? Most people assume a giant computer controls everything. The truth is much more organic than that. The intelligence lies in a simple three-step formula borrowed directly from the forest floor. Slow, spread, sink. Once you understand these three words, you will never look at rain the same way again. Our current cities do the exact opposite. They are built for speed. When rain hits concrete, it accelerates. It turns into a high-velocity weapon. It smashes into drains, overwhelms sewers, and destroys our streets. It is a fast, tight, and burst system. It is primitive. A sponge city plays a completely different game. First, it slows the water. This starts at the very top. Instead of flat, hard roofs, these cities use living rooftop skins. Dense layers of moss, soil, and vegetation that act as a soft break. The rain doesn't crash onto a hard surface. It gets trapped in the leaves. It gets tangled in the roots. By the time water reaches the ground, it has already lost its destructive power. It is no longer a flood. It is a gentle flow. Next, the city spreads that water. In a dead city, all water is forced into one giant pipe. If that pipe clogs, the entire city drowns. But a sponge city uses a distributed network. It moves water into thousands of small channels, rain gardens, and vegetated strips spread across the entire city. Instead of one massive problem, the city creates 1,000 tiny solutions. It is the exact logic of a wetland. By spreading the water, you remove all the pressure. You give the city room to breathe. Finally, the city lets the water sink. Beneath the thirsty roads, there are layers of engineered gravel and specially designed soils that filter the water as it drops. This water doesn't just disappear, it sinks deep into the earth to recharge underground water reserves, the same reserves your city drinks from every day. The flood becomes a resource. The disaster becomes a deposit. This isn't just about being green, this is a global financial revolution. According to World Economic Forum data, nature-based solutions are 50% more cost-effective than traditional concrete infrastructure. Governments worldwide are realizing that bigger concrete tunnels are a losing game. They are expensive, ugly, and they always eventually fail. But the true return on investment goes beyond avoiding flood damage. It is about eliminating the urban heat island effect, a hidden tax that is silently draining your wallet every summer. Traditional concrete cities are massive heat traps. They absorb the sun all day and radiate that heat all night, forcing your air conditioner to work twice as hard. You pay for that every single month. A sponge city acts as a giant natural cooler. When the stored water evaporates through the living skin, it literally pulls heat out of the air, the same way sweat cools your body on a hot day. This is not a minor change. We are talking about a 30% reduction in citywide energy demand during peak summer. Lower energy demand means lower bills. That money stays in your pocket. This is why the world's most advanced financial cities are changing direction. They have realized that traditional concrete infrastructure is a depreciating asset. It rusts, it cracks, it fails. Green and blue infrastructure is an appreciating asset. As the trees grow and the soil matures, the system's capacity increases for free. It is the only technology on Earth that gets better with age. A sponge city grows more efficient over time. As plants grow and soil strengthens, the living machine improves its own performance. It is self-healing technology. But if this is better and cheaper, why are we still drowning? This is where the truth gets complicated. Even advanced sponge cities face disasters. There is a limit to the sponge. Understanding that limit is the difference between survival and catastrophe. To see if this technology truly works, look at the world's biggest test case, China. In 2014, they launched a massive national program to transform 30 giant cities into sponges. They spent billions. They built the Yangtze River Beach Park in Wuhan, a park that deliberately disappears under the river during high tide to protect the surrounding city. It is futuristic. It is proof that coexistence with water is possible. But then 2021 happened. In Zhengzhou, one of China's pilot sponge cities, the sky opened. In just 3 days, an entire year's worth of rain hammered the streets. The world watched in horror as subway stations flooded and the so-called unfloodable city drowned. The critics immediately asked the question everyone was thinking. If sponge cities are so advanced, why did this one fail? Was it all a multi-billion-dollar lie? The answer is the most important truth of this entire journey. Zhengzhou didn't fail because the technology was flawed. It failed because a small sponge is completely useless against a giant ocean. Many cities make the same critical mistake. They build a sponge park here and a green roof there, while leaving the rest of the city wrapped in dead concrete. It is like trying to dry a sinking ship with a kitchen sponge. It will never be enough. The secret that separates a genuine survival strategy from an expensive gimmick is scale. A city cannot just have sponge parts scattered around. The entire city must function as one living organism. If the surrounding concrete infrastructure remains clogged and the city's river systems are not connected to the sponge network, the sponge becomes a small island surrounded by a concrete ocean. When the saturation point hits, there is simply nowhere for the excess water to go. This is the real lesson. To survive the storms of the 21st century, we cannot just decorate our cities with patches of nature. We have to rebuild the entire city's metabolism from the ground up. Every road, every rooftop, every park, one connected living system. When you get the scale right, the results go far beyond staying dry. A true sponge city at full scale regulates its own temperature. It is consistently 4 degrees cooler than the concrete jungle surrounding it. That is built-in air conditioning powered entirely by nature. The impact reaches directly into your wallet. Most cities waste enormous amounts of money and energy pumping fresh water in from outside while simultaneously pumping rainwater out. It is an endless, expensive cycle. A sponge city breaks that cycle permanently. By filtering and storing its own rain, the city creates a continuous supply of recycled water at almost zero cost. Lower water bills, lower energy bills. Zero flood anxiety. You stop checking the basement at midnight during a storm. You stop calculating whether your car will be underwater by morning. The constant background stress of living in a design failure simply evaporates. You stop being a victim of bad infrastructure. You become a resident of a high-performance, self-healing sanctuary. This is the power of building with nature instead of against it. We don't have to choose between modern progress and biological intelligence. We can have both. Roads can drink, rooftops can breathe. Entire cities can heal themselves like living organisms. It is a shift from control to coexistence, from fighting water to becoming water. But here is the final question that should be keeping every city planner awake at night. If we can use the logic of a sponge to solve flooding, what else can nature solve for us? If cities can drink like organisms, can they grow like them too? What if the next revolution in urban design has nothing to do with pouring concrete or welding steel? What if we could literally grow buildings from the ground up? It is already happening in laboratories right now. We have mastered the sponge. But the next frontier goes even deeper. We are looking at materials that are self-assembling, carbon negative, and stronger than any concrete ever poured. If we can fix the flood with sponges, can we build the future with mushrooms? It is not a joke. It is the next leap. In our next video, we go deep into mycelium architecture, the science of growing entire city structures from fungi. The era of the truly living building is just beginning. You will not believe how deep the roots go. See you there.